And so it makes sense of this. When teenagers were asked, what are the problems? It says the minor problem or the major problem, 70 and 26%, they consider either a major or minor. 96% consider anxiety and depression a major or minor problem. 90% considering bullying a major or minor problem. Drug addiction, 86% considered a major or minor problem. Drinking alcohol, 84% consider drinking alcohol. These are all the problems that are going on in the world, but if you push back and you look at, say, why do we have these problems? Our thinking. And most of us, if you're like me, we need help to change our thinking. And as I told you, that's what we're going to talk about. So let's ramp into that part and get one quick thought about how do we change our thinking? How do we attack this? In Luke 24:46 and then 37, it says, this is what the scriptures, we're going to talk about Bible reading today. And let me be honest, I'm pretty confident I'm not sitting in a room full of Bible devotees that have read our Bibles consistently and persistently. This is what Scripture said, that the promised anointed one should suffer and rise from the dead on the third day. Then in his name, a radical change of thought and life should be preached. And then in his name, the forgiveness of sins should be preached, beginning in Jerusalem and extending to all nations. Jesus promises extraordinary hope through radical change. What does that mean? Why do I love being a Christian? Because no matter what I do, no matter what happens in my relationships, in my life, in my character, in my heart, I always have hope that I can be different. If I hurt my wife, I have hope I can be different. If I hurt my kids, I have hope I can be different. If I have weaknesses in my life, I know that I can overcome those weaknesses. I can change those things because of Christ and because of God. And reading the Bible helps me believe every day that my hope is greater than my despair. And so thinking, this is faith. Faith is the courage to see and think. One of the difficulties we have, if someone says to you after service, hey, would you like to study the Bible? Remember, our reaction oftentimes to wanting to study the Bible or needing to study the Bible is we are afraid to see and we are afraid to think. That's the hard part. And most good professors, if you have a good professor in college, he or she is going to tell you, learn to think for yourself. Don't just take everything in the lecture and go, oh, that's all true. You want to learn to think. College is not about becoming a brilliant regurgitator of heard information. College is about learning to think. And different students learn different ways. Cheaters never learn to think because they're always trying to figure out how to get the information they need to pass the class. But people who go to class and learn and question the professor and the information, and feel free to question what I've shown you and research it, check it. I have no fear because it's worse than you think. Once you start thinking like that, your whole life becomes different. Thoughts affect our faith. Colossians 1:21-22. You used to be far from God. Your thoughts made you his enemies and you did evil things. But his son became a human and died. So God made peace with you and now he lets you stand in his presence as people who are holy and faultless and innocent. Unless we read the Bible, we are going to become enemies in our minds of God. We're going to want things that hurt him and we're going to want things that distance ourselves from him. Our thoughts will affect our faith. If you find you don't have much faith in God, more than likely it's because your thoughts have become enemies to your faith. That doesn't make you a bad person, that makes you a vulnerable person. And we do not live in a world, in all the studies I read, hardly anyone says, well, the decrease in a church attendance, the decrease in reading the Bible is connected with the negative things that people think about themselves and feel about their lives. No one connects the trend that says millennials and Generation Z are less inclined to read the Bible and go to church than older generations. No one's making that connection and saying maybe it's the lack of spiritual community, genuine and authentic friendship that's keeping us from being able to feel good about ourselves and keeping us from being able to accept ourselves. Instead of categorizing ourselves as, I got 45 likes and I've got 1,000 followers, maybe we need to find a new way to feel good about ourselves by saying, I've got 3 friends that really love me no matter what. Avoidant thinking. One of the most challenging things about life is many of us want to be avoidant thinkers. That means we're unwilling to see and we're unwilling to think. Ephesians 4:17, I have something from the Lord to tell you. I warn you, don't continue living like those who don't believe. Their thoughts are worth nothing. They have no understanding and they know nothing because they refuse to listen, so they cannot have the life that God gives. You know, I love to listen to music. I bet a lot of you love to listen to music too. And I love all genres of music, and people are often surprised that I like country music. I like a lot of different kinds of music. But one of the things I insist on my music is it leaves me better after I've listened to it than worse. And there is music that doesn't do anything for your brain, and there's music that does a lot of good for your brain. There are movies that do a lot of good for your brain, and there are movies that don't do a lot of good for your brain. We need to always be thinking about what are we letting influence us, and notice what it says here about avoidant thinkers. Their thoughts are worth nothing, they have no understanding, and they know nothing. The Bible's pretty hard right here. Why is that? It's saying these people don't want to think. They don't want to think about how they affect other people. They don't want to think about how they feel. They don't want to deal with their emotions. They don't want to process it. They want to live a thought-free life. Now, I admit to you, ignorance can be bliss. Not thinking about anything can be bliss. You know who didn't think about anything? Most people who are celebrities who are trying to sell their stuff, their wares, their music. They just dial it down. They do a study on society, and they say, what do kids want to listen to? Trust me. Have you seen advertising? I'm older now. I always I watch an old show I watched when I was a kid called The Waltons. All right? But when you watch the advertising, it is the old people's advertising. I mean, from diapers to constipation. And, I'm like, oh, my gosh. They target us and go, these folks are going to watch it this time, and let's give them some of that. And what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to think, wait a minute, that's all worth nothing. The car driving through the mountains that's beautiful with a beautiful girl in it, and you're watching it as a single guy, you're not going to own the car, and you're not going to get the girl. And if you ever can own the car, the girl doesn't come with it. And a lot of us, we don't even understand that because we're being brainwashed. Do you know when I was a kid, that's when they made it illegal to advertise cigarettes on TV? Because they knew that it was getting in the heads of young kids and they were more likely to become smokers. We need to understand, we can't be avoidant thinkers. We can't be people going, I don't want to think about that. I just want to watch TV. I don't want to think about it. I just want to watch. Now go watch TV, go do a movie, and go ski in Tahoe. That's all great. But make sure in between that you think. That you think about what's happening to you, what's going on. That means you got to become a courageous thinker, fearless thinker, someone who is willing to think and see. Ephesians 4:21. I know that you heard about him, and in him you were taught the truth. Yes, the truth is in Jesus. You were taught to leave your old self. This means that you must stop living the evil way you lived before. That old self gets worse and worse because people are fooled by the evil they want to do. You must be made new in your hearts and in your thinking. Be that new person who was made to be like God, truly good and pleasing to him. My mom said to me, many times over the last 15 years, I never thought you would be as good of a parent as you are. Now, I suppose that's supposed to be a compliment, Austin, but you ever get one of those backhanded compliments where I think that was a good thing? Because my mom saw how I lived. But she recognized, and my mom doesn't go to our church. She's not part of our church. She doesn't even believe what our church believes. And that's fine. That's her choice. But she can recognize that God changed the way I think. There is no way before I became a Christian that I would have gone through the effort and work it takes to be a parent of 3 kids and be married for 3-4 decades unless I became a Christian. When I went home after my freshman year of college, I said to my mom, I don't know. She goes, you don't know about what? I said, I'm going to get divorced at least 5 times because every month I like a different girl. And I think when I get married, I'm going to probably like somebody different, and I got to toss this one aside. But God changed my thinking. Can you imagine if someone had married me and I hadn't become a Christian? That's just a dangerously sad thought. I think we have to understand we can become brand new people. God is not restrictive. God emancipates and sets us free. What's he set us free to do? To think the way we were meant to think. To not have those terrible thoughts of, when I sit next to so-and-so, I feel fat. When I'm in a room with so-and-so, I feel stupid. When I don't get myself into this particular college, I don't have to feel bad about myself because I didn't get into that college. I get to actually sit down and be satisfied, content, inspired about the life I have, while also being glad about maybe my more successful friend being more successful in a worldly sense, but not in a human sense. So how do we do that? We're going to have to read the Bible. Now, I know for some of you, you're sitting there going, I have got dyslexia. That's hard. I agree. Some of you are going, the language in the Bible, I just can't handle it. I agree. I mean, when I first saw the Bible and I read it, and I read the word righteous, I was like, what in the world is that? And that's before singers, musicians, celebrities, and rappers started using righteous in a different way. I was like, what is righteousness? Then there are words like redemption, holiness. These are not words you use when you're hanging out in the dorm. You know, that's a holy thing you've got there. Just not. And so when we read the Bible, like, what? I don't understand. Sin and repentance, immorality, debauchery, and don't get me started on the King James Version. And so we end up going, well, how can I read the Bible? Here's the beautiful and the good news for you. Here's the multiple one quick thoughts for you. You don't have to deal with what I had to deal with when I was coming up. You can listen to the Bible on audio, just the sound, and there are multiple audio versions of the Bible. You can get it on DVD Bible where you can actually see visuals while you listen to it in the audio. You can get digital Bibles where you don't even have to know the order of the books in the Bible. You can get on there and just do a search and saying, I'm trying to find hope, and then boom, all the hope scriptures come up. There's so many different ways to consume the Bible. You can get devotional books that actually are all scriptures, and they list out the scriptures for you. You can have someone else read the Bible to you. There's all kinds of ways to consume the Bible. There is no right way. There is only the way. Somebody said, what kind of mask should we wear in the middle of the pandemic? And Dr. Fauci said, the best mask is the mask you will wear. The best Bible is the one you will read. And I don't care if you're listening to it in the bathroom, while you're walking down the street, in the car. You can hook up your audio equipment and you can listen to it in the car as you go along. That counts.